Jeff Mucci with RCR Wireless News. We're here in Las Vegas at CTIA with Evan Conway from Handmark. Evan, you're Executive VP of Marketing. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Jeff. Pleasure to be here.
You've been around 10 years. Let's take a step back in time to the beginning. Tell us about Handmark 10 years ago, what you were doing then, and maybe walk us through some of the major milestones leading up to the announcements that you've made since Barcelona and here at CTIA.
Sure, you bet. Handmark's been around for 10 years. If you look all the way back to kind of the early days of mobile, all the way back to a Palm Pilot, where selling package software in retail stores, where a person would walk in and literally buy a Handmark product, take it home, load it onto their computer, and then offload it onto their mobile device. So all the way back to those days. Since then, we've seen that transition to the web, and we're now seeing things more directly downloaded right onto stores, right onto mobile devices. But Handmark's been involved from the early days of creating app stores for carriers and device manufacturers. To this day, we're probably involved with about 50 different application stores around the world in one way or another, from aggregating content to actually building and managing, running those stores for people. But we've kind of moved really into our primary focus, which is now to help take brands mobile. So going mobile involves a lot of different things. It's not just like throwing up a website. You've got lots of different operating systems. You've got hundreds of different devices to get involved with. So we're taking our 10 years of experience both in building apps, but also in successfully distributing those apps, around the world, and really helping brands, with their strategy, from soup to nuts, from building that app to distributing that app to monetizing it, and really all the ongoing innovation associated with the mobile industry.
Mm-hmm. In the last 6 months, what are some of the major shifts that you've seen in this segment of the business?
I think a lot of it is kind of focused on the key is really focusing on an audience and focusing on the end user. We're starting to get beyond just the basic concept of, boy, it'd be really cool to have a mobile application. I mean, it sounds like a great idea, and it often is the first step, kind of a dip your toe in the water of, I'll do a cool app for the iPhone. But now that kind of marketers and professionals are really starting to think about it, it's still about reaching an audience and extending your brand and all those things. So I think more and more we're seeing folks recognize that I really want to cover the full range of possibilities, as opposed to, we like to joke, what 80% of the audience do you want to ignore if you go with just a single platform? So I think we're seeing people recognize the importance of broad coverage, but then still taking advantage of kind of the particular cool things that might exist on any particular operating system, but even more so, even any device. Again, if you think about it, very different than a website. Here we're talking about, some of the most popular phones, will be touch screens, or not touch screens. Just a very basic difference, which leads to, very different, development capabilities.
So what are some of the technical challenges to taking a brand to mobile across all devices? What's so hard about it?
Well, first step, again, it isn't just, hey, does it work for Mac and does it work for Windows and maybe Linux, as an outlier or something like that. We're talking about a half a dozen, or really more than that in some cases, basic platforms, and then literally hundreds of devices. If you look at our testing area, we've got more than 300 devices sitting there to be tested, before something's really ready to go. So there's certainly kind of an underlying platform that we have that lets us do, a lot of the basic development that really lets us get kind of us up to a certain level of capabilities. But then there's all the tweaking to really take advantage of the unique capabilities of a particular device, to really make sure it's still cutting edge and cool for that individual end user, as opposed to, just kind of a low watermark across, a broad coverage area.
Again, going back to the technical challenges associated with developing an application or software to operate on all platforms, anywhere, anytime. Tell us about your workforce and the type of people that work at Handmark to help solve some of these technical challenges, the Q&A, the testing, the deployment of content?
Yeah, sure. And the interesting thing, I think, is that in general, people do focus on the development because it is the first thing. If you don't develop an application, you can't do anything else with it. And we've got a lot of developers as an important key part of our business, of course. But I think kind of what's forgotten, some of what we started with, been around for 10 years, and we've got folks with those direct relationships with the big application stores and with all the carriers, not just in this country, but in Canada and over in Europe, those sorts of places as well. So the distribution channels for those that want to get beyond just popping it in, say, a single big application store, kind of the account management that goes with it is sometimes a forgotten area. We also have full customer support teams because a lot of these folks, people we partner with, they may do customer support in some other area, maybe on the web, or they may have be ready to take phone calls for their subscribers and things like that, but they're often not ready to deal with all the different challenges associated with going mobile. So we've got capabilities, in that area as well. And then the last piece, kind of the marketing of that application itself. How do you actually cut through the clutter, in Apple's case of 140,000
Sure.
different applications? How do you get noticed in those areas? So we've got a lot of kind of interesting and unique capabilities across the Handmark app network where we can cross promote and really take advantage of some of these different properties that we have.
Well, you mentioned taking brands to market or to mobile, and you mentioned the word reach. It's really two levels. On one level, it's being able to reach all devices, but the second most important part is actually getting to those people.
Sure, you bet.
Talk a little bit about how you help brands actually reach people, or help people reach that brand.
Sure,
Properly said.
And there's a bunch of different ways. There's not any single answer. I do think that it's going to be different for different brands. So in some cases, getting in one of the big application stores that's specific to a particular platform is key and drives a ton of traffic to that. As I mentioned earlier, we're involved with 50 different application stores, be it for carriers and other folks like that. So we help them navigate the waters and really get published in all these different application stores. But more and more, what's becoming a really important part of this is to help these companies really distribute the application themselves. So it's one thing to walk into a store, browse, find a particular application that looks cool and download it and go. It's another thing to be, say, surfing the website of Forbes, for example,
Right.
and find, they've got an application. I'd like to get it and be able to download it, right from that website, or to be able to get a SMS message sent to your mobile phone right from that website instantly. So you didn't go there necessarily for the purpose of finding a mobile application. You just like the content on that website, and now that website gives you another way to get that content when you're on the go.
That's interesting. Can you give us another example of how you've helped a brand really transform their business measured by the way they engage their readers or their customers? Give us a couple examples.
Well, you're seeing all sorts of things. We're talking about traditional brands that are going mobile. Forbes is one of them. We've worked with Wall Street Journal as well, and they've been particularly innovative as you watch them in the early days testing the free model and advertising.
Yep.
To go into subscription capabilities and offering different things based on whether you're a subscriber to the print magazine than if you're just someone that came and downloaded the mobile app. So you're certainly seeing a lot of experimentation, along those lines. One of the things we bring to the table for many of these folks is the ability to monetize that application
Right.
in different ways. So Wall Street Journal, we've seen go from pure advertising to advertising and MRC, monthly reoccurring,
Right.
Charge possibilities. But we're also seeing with other brands where we'll help them with advertising in the sense that we've got more than a dozen different advertising networks on the back end they can hook into. So if they're not ready to do direct sales themselves, we can offer direct sales, and we can offer hooking them up to advertising networks seamlessly. But also, we can offer things like selling products, through their application. So the e-commerce capabilities, hooking them up to direct carrier billing, or to help them with all the different possibilities of using PayPal or Amazon, on the back end. Again, having done this for 10 years, we're tied into all these different kind of back end mechanisms that are sometimes forgotten about. So I think when you couple that also with kind of the database structures of really tracking usage and figuring out how people are using this application, it gives them really interesting pieces of information that perhaps it is not the same as what they're used to, and that when they deliver a print product to somebody, you can actually see what stories are being clicked on and things like that. So I think they're able to take that information and even transfer it back into their more traditional delivery mechanisms and say, boy, people are the United States are getting a lot more interested in soccer than they used to. Maybe we ought to give more coverage to soccer, not just on the mobile, or even the web, but maybe even in the traditional print, medium.
Mm-hmm. Who are your top 3 competitors, and how do you differentiate yourself from them?
I'd say really the number one pure, kind of competitor is someone just doing it themselves. I mean, someone that either hires people to write code or outsources to somebody that's actually just writing applications. And that's really the number one competitor. I can't remember, seriously, I can't remember where we just lost head to head, to somebody that is going to do what we bring to the table. We just approach the game a little bit differently than other folks. We're not kind of a work for hire. You don't just come to Handmark and say, hey, here's $100,000, build me an application or something like that. We're very much, we take a partnership approach, to this. It sounds cliche, but it really is true. We're not in this just to build an application, get paid, and now go build another application. Our goal is to build applications that will build audience and build usage for a brand. And then we share in the revenue and the ongoing monetization, much of which we bring to the table for that company. So it looks very different than what most competitors would be. Instead of the brand kind of writing checks to us, it's usually quite the opposite. We sign a deal with a brand, we launch across multiple platforms, and then we're busy sending checks back to them based on the shared monetization, of it. So it's really quite different, than how most of the folks are approaching the model.
So if we published our magazine on Handmark, you'll start paying us. Is that my understanding?
Looking forward to doing it.
Evan, thanks for stopping by today.
You bet. Thank you very much.